we're gonna do my how-to video for my climb class. Like, seriously, random rope like showed up in my apartment. Don't know where it came from, but it's here. So we've got the figure 8 follow through, which you start out, you make a loop, and then you twist it, and then you go around and back up through the hole. So it looks like a figure 8. Okay, nice little figure 8. And then for the follow through, you take the opposite end of where you started, and then you follow it through exactly. So then around, so I'm just following the knot through exactly the way that it was that I did it the first time. Then and then I just pull it tight. So I have a little loop for that I can clip into my carabiner, or actually it'll be into my harness. So it's like an imaginary harness. And then that's my figure 8 follow through. So then the next one that we have to do is the clove-hitch. I have really, really tiny fingers, so this is gonna be a little bit difficult. But with the clove-hitch, you go under, like whatever you're trying to tie it to, and then you pull it down. You take the opposite piece, and you go across, and you make a little loop so it kind of has an X. Then you take that, and you go back up through. See, the tiny finger problem is coming into play. It doesn't want to stay on my finger. And then you tighten it, and then I'll rotate it so that the camera can see it, and then that's the clove hitch. The girth hitch is another one that we have to do. Apparently I do this one all the time and didn't even realize that I do it with my hair ties when I'm playing with them, but because I don't have something that's in a loop yet per se, so I just folded my rope in half. Again, tiny finger problems. Loop it around my finger, and then I'm going to take both ends, I'm going to thread them through, and then just pull it tight. My figure 8 on a bite, I was looking up videos and I thought I was going crazy because it's a lot easier than I thought, and it is just as simple as it says. I made a bite in my rope, or I looped it, and then you just do an overhand knot. And then that's the overhand on a bite. And then the figure 8 on a bite is what I was worried about. It's one of the harder ones for me. You create a bite, so with the loop, and then here's like the actual loop that you would make if you were doing a figure 8 knot. You still do the twist. It might take me a couple of tries to get this one right. So you take the loop, you create like your other loop, just like I'm starting a figure 8 knot. I twist, and then my loop that I had originally created, and pull it through. Pretty much. And then with the figure 8 on a bite. So then this would clip into like a carabiner. Last two are the water knot. I've got 2 different colored ropes, which is awesome. They literally randomly appeared. I don't know where they came from.
Wow.
So with the water knot, you do like a loose overhand knot in the end of your rope. I'm actually going to tie it farther down so I have more rope to play with. So loose overhand knot, looks like that. Then I'm going to take my second color. Here's where my 2 colors come in play. And I'm going to follow it in reverse, just like I was doing with the figure 8 follow through. And then you just pull them tight, and then you have your water knot. So for the Pruisk something P knot, it's gonna need 2 ropes. the red one is gonna lay on the ground, and then I'm using my lanyard that my whistle was on, so it's already in a loop. I take the loop end and I slide it under the rope, and then I take the other end of it and I just go around and through. And then I make sure it hasn't knotted up, and then come around and through, and then for the last time, so that's around 3 times, and then I come over, and then we are going to magically pull this together, and it'll create a knot, hopefully. That is our end goal here. It's to have them lay down side by side and have a knot. I don't know if it's gonna work again. And there it is. So those are all of the different knots that we are supposed to know for climbing. Then we have to show how to set up an ATC for belaying. So I don't have an ATC, which is pretty funky because I'm not an avid climber. I get all of my equipment it's just provided for the class. So I'm actually going to be using my shoes as like the actual ATC device, which is pretty silly, but that's okay. So what the ATC is normally is it has 2 loops. I'm probably just going to throw up a picture of it. So I guess it'll be over here. That's what an ATC looks like. But I don't have one of those. So we're gonna be using my climbing shoes. I know. I'm working on getting all of my equipment. But my climbing shoes have 2 loops. I'm gonna use this one on the side because it's sideways. So I guess I'll use my hair tie, because if you remember from the picture, the ATC is a little black, blue, whatever color. It's just basically an attachment point. So I'm gonna make an imaginary attachment point here really quick. Okay, so the attachment point is what initially goes into your carabiner, which would be hooked onto my harness. And for belaying, use the ATC for belaying, and normally you'd have a locking carabiner. Again, I don't have one of those, so we're making do with what I got in my apartment. Then I take my rope, because my blue one went missing. I'll use my red one. I take my rope and I put it into a loop. You make a bite in it just like you would on any other. You put it, so like when the shoe's not there, we're just looking at this little portion. You put it through the one of most ATCs have 2. For rock climbing, normally you only use 1 hole because that's all you need. And then you put that through the carabiner, so it looks like that. So there's my little attachment point, and then there's my rope. And now with my carabiner being hooked into my harness, I can now belay whoever is on the other end of my rope. That's how you set up an ATC for belaying with no ATC. Then there's a couple of different climbing commands that we do so that when I'm on the ground and my climber is climbing,
wow,
I know what they're doing and how they're and what's going on with them. If they need me to take up more slack, if they are feeling like they're gonna fall, you just have to have really good communication with the person who's belaying you on the ground. So there's a couple of ones right at the very beginning. The climber will ask me on belay if I'm the belayer, and what they're trying to do is make sure that I'm ready to pull up the slack as they're climbing. So I'll reply with belay on, which is saying, yep, everything is good. I've got, it's hooked into my harness. I've checked my climber to make sure that their figure 8 is solid and that they're not gonna fall out. You can either do a tug test, or you can check and make sure that there's 5 pairs of, that all 5 pairs are together of like the rope. Then when they're getting ready to climb, they'll say climbing, and I'll say climb on. So they're saying, hey, belayer, I'm getting ready to climb, and so I'll respond with climb on, saying, I got you, no problem. I'm ready when you're ready. In my class, we have a couple of other ones. Those are the 4 main ones that everybody knows. People will say take, or some people also say tension, which means take up all of the slack. I'm gonna hang here for a while, or there's too much, I feel like I'm gonna fall. So take all of it up, or they'll say tension. And as the belayer, I would respond with got you, or okay, or no problem. That one's kind of, that response is just me letting my climber know that I heard him. When a climber gets up to the top and they've, done their little happy dance at the top of the mountain, they're gonna say ready to lower. And they're saying, hey, I'm ready to come down. Are you ready? And I'll say lowering. And they will, and they'll come, and then at that point they will come all the way down. Then the other one that we have is, you can either do like watch me or falling. And that's just that's the climber saying, basically, I'm falling. You need to get it. I'm getting ready to fall. Take up all of the slack. So instead of saying take, they can also say falling. And then that kind of gets everybody's ears ready to go. Because if their belayer is not listening, then possibly the backup belayer that most of us have is ready to go. That's all the information I have for you for my how-to video for my rock climbing class.